Hey everyone, welcome back to Nerd Society. Today, we're diving into the world of Shazam and counting down his 10 greatest villains. These bad guys have challenged the might of the champion of magic in some of the most iconic and intense battles in comic history. If you're a fan of Shazam or love hearing about powerful villains, you're going to enjoy this one. Before we get started, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below on who you think is Shazam's most dangerous enemy. Let's jump right in. Ebenezer Batson is Billy Batson's uncle, who steals the young boy's inheritance in Jerry Ordway's version. While Ebenezer Batson isn't exactly a supervillain, he still deserves a spot on the list of Shazam's greatest enemies. Created in 1940, the character shares his name with the famous figure from Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Like his namesake, Ebenezer Batson inherited the same notorious greed. After gaining custody of Billy, due to the tragic murder of his parents, he kicks the boy out onto the streets and keeps the money for himself. Billy manages to survive and eventually becomes the hero Shazam. But if throwing a kid out on the street doesn't earn Ebenezer a place on this list, I don't know what does. Eclipso. The Eclipso is an entity that embodies the wrath of God in physical form, created to cleanse the world of evil. His original name was Galad, and he was shattered into pieces by the Spectre, then imprisoned in a black diamond mine from Apocalypse. This stone eventually made its way to Earth, where it was split into 1,000 pieces. Eclipso found a way to act through these shards, possessing anyone who came into contact with them. Eclipso has powers like super strength, flight, possession, and invulnerability, making him one of Shazam's most formidable villains. He even managed to possess the bodies of Lois Lane and Superman at one point, but he was eventually stopped and forced back into the Black Diamond. Lord Satanus. Satanus is a demon and the brother of Lady Blaze. They fought side by side for control of Hell, but eventually, Satanus ended up on Earth, disguised as Colin Thornton. Satanus earns his spot among Shazam's villains because, like his sister, he's a powerful and demonic opponent. He's also incredibly tough. He once defeated the King of Hell by using the word Shazam. Afterward, he decapitated his enemy, gifted the head to his sister, and claimed the throne of Hell for himself. Lady Blaze. Blaze is a horned demon with red skin who works undercover at a nightclub in Metropolis under the alias Angelica Blaze, where she attempts to steal souls. Later, she took on the disguise of a mob boss and appeared in Fawcett City. One of Lady Blaze's most notable achievements was leading a rebellion in Hell alongside her brother, Satanus, to overthrow Naren's reign. She's also responsible for the creation of Black Adam, one of Shazam's greatest enemies. Sook, also known as Ur the Unknown, the fourth horseman of the Four Horsemen Project, Sook is a crocodile pulled from the Nile River and genetically altered by Dr. Sivana. He manages to escape, and months later, returns and befriends Osiris, who names him Sook. Sook then becomes part of the Black Marvel family. While Sook seemed content as the Black Marvel family's mascot, he soon revealed his true nature. He brought plague to the nation of Kondak, killing crops and causing famine, and ultimately betrayed his companion Osiris by violently devouring him. A villain who betrays another villain is even more dangerous. Ibac. Originally named Stanley Stinky Printwhistle, Ibac was just an ordinary criminal attempting to blow up a bridge when he was caught in the explosion. He was saved by none other than Lucifer, who offered him powers to become a champion of evil in exchange for his soul. Every time he says the word Ibac, he transforms into a powerful, muscular figure. Ibac deserves a spot among Shazam's top 10 villains because he follows the same transformation logic as Billy Batson, changing forms by speaking a word, in his case, Ibac. The name Ibac also has a historical significance. It's an acronym representing the initials of 4 infamous men in history. Ivan the Terrible, who grants him terror, Borgia, who grants him cunning, Attila the Hun, who grants him ferocity, and Caligula, who grants him cruelty. Mr. Mind. Mr. Mind is a 3-inch long centipede from the planet Venus. He is extremely intelligent, wears glasses, and communicates through a small radio he wears around his neck. Mr. Mind is an old villain who was feared on Earth S and had dominion over several planets. He eventually recruited villains from 87 worlds to attack Earth and eliminate Shazam once and for all. He then formed the Monster Society of Evil, one of the earliest villainous organizations, gathering about 30 notorious villains, mostly members of the Marvel family. The Seven Deadly Sins. The Seven Deadly Sins are the personifications of the seven deadly sins of humanity, also known as the seven mortal enemies of man or the seven cardinal sins. They are seven powerful demons representing the seven deadly sins from Judeo-Christian religions. These demons can take control of people's bodies and compel them to act on their base desires. The sins were imprisoned in statues many years ago by the wizard Shazam and were placed in the Rock of Eternity. The seven deadly sins are among Shazam's top 10 villains because defeating human tendencies is virtually impossible. Envy, greed, wrath, sloth, gluttony, lust, and pride, the latter being the most powerful according to Shazam, are vices that cannot be overcome, only imprisoned from time to time. Dr. Savanah, regarded as the most intelligent man on Earth, Thaddeus Bodog Savanah was a man without limits. Yet his intellect wasn't enough to save his wife from death. Devastated, he built a spacecraft and traveled to Venus with his two children. After some time, he returned to Earth, remarried, had two more children, and lost his new wife as well. This drove him to madness, leading him to seek world domination. Dr. Savanah was Shazam's first major villain and remains a recurring enemy. His grandiose plans include building a fleet of heavy artillery to wage war on the U.S. and running his daughter for the U.S. presidency. Among his notable achievements are colonizing Venus, partnering with Lex Luthor, being a member of the Monster Society of Evil, and creating the element Suspendium, which can put any hero in suspended animation. But his most grotesque act was entering the circus industry and exploiting exotic animals from Venus. Black Adam. Black Adam was one of the first to wield the powers of the wizard Shazam back in ancient Egypt, when he was known as Taith Adam. His mission was to uphold peace and fight evil, but he was corrupted by power and was eventually exiled to another dimension by the wizard Shazam. He managed to return 5,000 years later, vowing revenge against the wizard and his new champion. Black Adam ranks among Shazam's top 10 villains primarily because he is the dark counterpart to the hero. He has been a member of the secret society of supervillains, is a dictator of his own nation, has married and formed the Black Marvel family, and has battled both Shazam and Superman together. And of course, his costume is one of the coolest in comic books. And that wraps up our look at Shazam's 10 greatest villains. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below with your thoughts or any other villains you think should have made the list. We love hearing from you. See you next time on Nerd Society.